Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome back to another interview on the importance of reading Srila Prabhupada's books on behalf of ISKCON Ministry of Education. And we are very happy to have today with us His Grace Svavasa Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Bol.
Thank you for joining us. Svavasa Prabhu is very well known, especially in North America. He is a direct disciple of Srila Prabhupada, joined the movement in 1973. First served as book distributor, like many devotees in that time. And then soon, after 5 years, was asked to become the temple president, first in Denver, right?
Denver.
And then, for 5 years. But then afterwards, you went to LA and then became temple president of LA. And Prabhu is still the temple president of the LA temple, and that's more than 35 years total, more than 40 years serving in the role of a temple president. That's quite unusual, and of course says a lot about your devotional service and your personality. So we're very happy to have you with us, and it will be nice to hear also from a temple president how the reading of Srila Prabhupada's books play an important role in your life and in the life of the devotees that you're taking care of. So thank you again. Maybe we can start and hear from you. What was the first contact with Srila Prabhupada's books? How did you join the movement? And how reading Prabhupada's books has changed your life?
Yeah, that's pretty interesting because when I saw this, I thought, wow, yeah, let me think about that. So first of all, I recall that as a teenager, that we would listen to a song by George Harrison from the Beatles, My Sweet Lord. Mm. And so my friends and I, we really were interested in that song. We loved it, actually. So sometimes we would drive up and down the street with our heads out the window chanting Hare Krishna. Mm. And we didn't even know it. We didn't know what it meant. We didn't know what it was or anything. We just knew My Sweet Lord. So that was my first encounter with Krishna consciousness, unknowingly. So after getting out of high school, went to college, and I took a break. My older brother and I decided we wanted to take a break, and we wanted to go to California from Chicago. I was living in Chicago at that time. So I thought, well, let's take a break and let's go out to California. So on our way to California, we stopped off in Denver, Colorado. We liked Denver, so we stayed there for a while. And after just a little bit of time, my brother and I, we were walking downtown Denver, Colorado, and a devotee approached us. And he showed us a Krishna book. Mm. And the first thing he opened up to, of course, was the introduction of George Harrison. So that immediately got our attention.
Connection.
And immediately we thought, wow, anything that he does has got to be good. So we bought the book and we took it home, and my brother and I began reading it. And we didn't know what to think of it, really, but it sounded like just absolutely far out. So we just continued reading without even knowing there was a temple in Denver or anything of that nature. So after reading that for a couple of months, we lived in a house, and we would have to drive up a one-way street to our home, where we were staying. And that one-way street has a lot of stoplights, not every block, but just right in the middle of a block. So you can imagine what kind of ignorance we're in. We went up that street so many times, but we never, ever noticed a temple. You just didn't even notice it. Mm-hmm. So one day we were driving, and a devotee came out the side door, and he had a shaved head and tilak on. And we go, hey, wow, that's one of those guys. He must live there. So from that point, we knew where the temple was. We went to the temple, and that was an experience in itself. So that's how we came in contact with Krishna consciousness.
It's beautiful. First the Mahamantra, and then in the Krishna book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was it was very sweet, very sweet.
Sweet introduction with Krishna book directly. That's also a special too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember how was it like these early days reading Prabhupada's books? I mean, there were not so many books available at that time.
No. We were able to secure a Bhagavad Gita, so we got the Bhagavad Gita, and my older brother and I, we would actually sit down in the evening, and we were trying to be somewhat mystical. So we would sit down, we'd turn the lights out, and we put 2 candles there. And then we had like a little table. So we had the Bhagavad Gita and the Krishna book on these tables. And, you know, we would just sit there and we would read the translation and the purport. And although I don't think we understood much at all, to be honest with you, I don't recall myself really. All I remember was that it was a battlefield scene. And I thought, wow, we're going to read about a whole battle. And, you know, without any real understanding of the philosophy behind it. But the pictures of the Bhagavad Gita were extremely captivating us. We were very captivated by it. So we cut out all the pictures in the book and we put them on our wall so that we could see them every day. And when we read the Bhagavad Gita, we'd read about maybe 4 or 5, maybe a few more verses than that. And then after that, we would just kind of like stop. But that reading, the pictures on the wall would remind us daily about Krishna consciousness. Although we don't really, I can, on my part, I have to say, I don't really know what I was getting into, what was going on with this at all, really. Didn't really know.
Now, so many years later, over the years, how do you feel what is the importance of reading Srila Prabhupada's books? And especially maybe also in regards to your service, you're a manager, you're a temple president. And I know from my own experience, it's hard to sometimes get the time to read because you always think we have more important things to do. We'd like to share something about the importance of reading, especially also as a manager.
Well, yeah, I think just a little caption, a little story I told you actually says it all for me in terms of like how important it is to read. Because I was reading when I didn't know what I was reading. I had no idea, no understanding. I just picked up a book because I thought that a great, artist was singing and I liked his songs. And so, okay, if he did it, I'll do it. So reading the Krishna book and reading the Bhagavad Gita without any real knowledge of Krishna consciousness. And here I am, 48 years later, still a Hare Krishna devotee. And also it inspired me to become really interested and focused on book distribution. So it was like after I joined the temple, my brother and I joined together. Obviously I was in the kitchen cutting vegetables and I was cleaning the temple and we'd go on Harinam. And finally, they introduced me to distributing Prabhupada's books. And for me, that was really an amazing experience. I liked the whole interaction of actually preaching to someone, encouraging them just like I was. I found the importance of that and I thought, wow, this is a great thing. So yeah, I think that what it did to my life, it inspired me to become involved in making other people's lives better, because I felt I was getting a better life by this Krishna conscious movement. So I would say for me, reading Prabhupada's books kept me really focused. It helped me hear directly from a pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada. And it helped me understand the importance of serving the spiritual master and hearing what he wanted. And after hearing what he wants, then become focused on that activity. So from reading Prabhupada's books, I learned about the importance of book distribution from him. That's what he wanted. I felt that my service in Krishna consciousness would be enhanced tremendously by distributing Prabhupada's books. But then if you're going out and you're preaching, if you don't read Prabhupada's books, then you don't know what you're going to preach about. What are you going to say? Somebody can approach you and ask you something, and you have to know the answer. What is the Bhagavad Gita about? Or what is the Krishna book about? What's this book about? So if you're a person that goes out on distribution, you have to know those things. And I think that in terms of management, well, a lot of times Prabhupada said a lot of things about that. People in the world need guidance. Some people have a lot of important positions in life all over the world. People don't know exactly what to do. They're questioning what society is about. Like even today in America, it's going through so much turmoil. And if we go out there and we distribute these books to these individuals, they'll know what should be really done. They'll get a clear, truthful answer. So I would say that reading the books, preaching about the books, and this is why book distribution is so important. It's a great golden opportunity for a lot of people to hear the truth and then act on it. That this is the truth, and act on it. And if they act on it, then one will become a devotee of Krishna. So, and also Prabhupada said so many times that as long as your preaching work is strong, the management of the temple will be strong. So preaching, Prabhupada said, meant distributing Prabhupada's books. And then, of course, it goes back again to reading Prabhupada's books. Without reading them, how are you going to be inspired to distribute them to people? And if you read them, then you'll hear. And if you hear, then you'll understand what the spiritual master wants, or what the Prabhupada wants. So from that, we get inspiration to continue on with our service in Krishna consciousness. So it's of the utmost importance to really read Prabhupada's books, and then we'll understand that preaching is our real business. Preaching, distributing books. If our preaching work is strong, then our management of the temple will also be automatically very strong. Automatically be strong.
That's beautiful to hear from you as a manager, like the focus on preaching, which is really what Prabhupada also teaches us. And as you said, like the reading inspired you to share it. And when you share, you also feel inspired to read more because you want to share more. So that's, that connection is there. Wonderful. When we study Prabhupada's books, we also speak about Shastra Chakshu, that we start to see the world through the eyes of the Shastra. I'm sure as a book distributor, you must have got a lot of realization, and also as a manager, we interact with so many different people all the time. And then we faced many problems. But then when we read, we get this Shastra Chakshu eyes. Would you like to share some realization on that?
I would say that, I think we have to understand that we can't really approach Krishna on our own. It's not like we can directly approach Krishna. We actually have to go through the spiritual master. So to go directly is impossible. So Guru Krishna Kripaya. So, this process of understanding how to act and how to serve and how to, do your service, one has to understand the philosophy. And you can understand that philosophy by reading Srila Prabhupada's books. One can't just simply speculate or think of some particular philosophy that they're interested in. It's really direct. It's really it's actually you when you read Prabhupada's books, you get the secret of knowing Bhagavatam, and that secret is giving rapt attention to the books that you read, like the Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad Bhagavatam. That rapt attention is very important, and you can't get that rapt attention unless you have a pure mind. The pure mind is very important. It's very essential. So no one can be pure in mind who's not pure in action. So Srila Prabhupada's books tell us how to act, what we should be thinking, when we should be thinking it, and how we should be thinking it. And from that, we get the pure mind, and then we get rapt attention in doing our service and what we're doing in Krishna consciousness and when we're studying and reading Prabhupada's books. So in that particular capacity, yeah.
Like in order to actually deeply understand the books, you need that clear focus. At the same time, through reading, actually, you develop that also by understanding what Prabhupada tells us. Yeah.
Yes, because, you're hearing, for myself, my personal opinion, what I like to do is I like to read out loud. So when I read out loud, I'm actually hearing what I'm reading. And it keeps my mind focused. It keeps my attention on what I'm reading. And then you absorb it more. You actually become, you really get enlivened because you're hearing it and you're absorbing it. And you're giving it your rapt attention.
What would you advise to devotees who don't have that taste in reading Srila Prabhupada's books? I mean, you mentioned that reading Srila Prabhupada's books, you feel like Prabhupada talks to you directly. We know that Prabhupada is present in his books. But for some reason, we see that not everyone has this access to it.
Yeah. Say that again, just so what was that last part?
Yeah, just what can we advise devotees who don't have that access to Srila Prabhupada's books yet? What can they do to feel Prabhupada's presence in the books and get a taste in reading?
Well, I think that association is a very important aspect of it. To associate with other individuals that are really interested in that subject matter, that are interested in reading. That really helps a lot. I've been married for a lot of years, and when I read with my wife, it really helps considerably. So, it kind of gives, I'll read and she'll read. So it really helps the whole relationship. It helps our development of our determination, our understanding of the philosophy, how we should function, what we should and should not do. I think all those things they manifest. So association, I think, is really essential, unless one is really apt for reading on their own. But I find that association is very important in maintaining and keeping up the process of reading constantly on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think that's a powerful advice. That, of course, in the Grihastha Ashram, if you're together, then reading together, and also if devotees come together, then often we just talk about this and that. But why not take a book and just read for some time?
Yeah. While you're reading like that, things come up in the purports that can be very, very heavy. And if you're reading with someone that's, if your wife or a good friend, these kind of when these pretty intense subject matters come up, it really can wake you up as to who you are, what you are, and what you should be doing. So I think in that association, it means that person that you're reading with, they're hearing it, or a group of devotees, they're hearing what should be done. And if you're having some difficulty or some problem or some misunderstanding about a subject matter, then Srila Prabhupada would tell you what the answer to that is. And it could be very startling. Like sometimes reading with your wife, there's this issue that comes up of illicit sex. And that's a very heavy subject matter. So when you're reading the purports, and Srila Prabhupada says something about that, it's right there. The answer is given to you, and the instruction is there. So I think it has that kind of potency. And if you're constantly reading, all the questions that you may have will come to surface, and they'll be answered right there with that reading activity.
I like that point in the sense of, because you're reading together, then the topic which comes up, then you get involved in a discussion, and together you are experiencing this.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And there has to be, out of that comes a certain degree of honesty. You know, you all of a sudden your character, you have to, you know, what kind of a character are you? What kind of an honest, moral person are you? You know, are you really fixated on you know, pushing on Krishna? I'm just saying, just a variety of issues rise up when you're reading an association of devotees, or even by yourself for that matter. But I think the point we're trying to make is how to keep that consistency. And I find out reading with somebody is extremely important.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing this. Of course, when we read, then we also spoke about it. We also like to apply what we read. What would you advise devotees to make sure that we also apply what we read every day?
Yeah, behavior. You know, I think that's, you know, the purports that Srila Prabhupada has given us, like, to me, you know, when I read, the thing that comes out with me more than anything is the purports. Mm-hmm. The purports to me are extremely important. And because, again, it comes to that point because any questions you may have will be answered in those particular purports. If you're a very dedicated person to reading on a daily basis, and you're really, you know, focused on it, you'll see that the questions that may arise in your heart or in your mind will be actually given to you right there. The answer is right there. You know, but we have to have that kind of, you know, you have to have that open-mindedness. You have to have that dedication, and you want to get the answers from Srila Prabhupada's books. You know, you have a question, you want to answer to it. If you read Prabhupada's books and you really want to get the answer, it'll come there to you. So, you know, that to me that's why I read. Even though after so many years, there's still so many questions that arise due to, you know, weakness of the heart, you know, uncontrolled senses or uncontrolled mind. So many issues arise. And the answers are in Srila Prabhupada's books. And so it's extremely, and for me, the purports are extremely important because they answer my questions.
So you're saying that if we have the proper attitude in reading, then actually we will find the answers, and that will give us its inspiration to also act on it, because we.
Yeah, and I think that because, you know, Prabhupada's books are rich with the absolute truth, and anyone who reads them seriously, they can actually advance to the highest level of spiritual life just by reading Srila Prabhupada's books. You know, you can appreciate how unique Prabhupada's books are if we constantly read them, if we're constantly absorbed in them and constantly reading and hearing, then we'll understand how unique these books really are for us and for humanity. Mm-hmm. And that's where this rapt attention is very important when we're reading. We have to really pay attention and really hear. And that really helps us in terms of purification and enthusiasm. We get enthusiasm from doing our service. And doing our service, I should say.
Yeah. In our project, The Books Are the Basis, our vision is that Srila Prabhupada's books become the most read books on spirituality on this planet. Of course, before that can happen, we ourselves have to read them. Like the devotees have to become very eager to read Srila Prabhupada's books. Then we can also preach with conviction. How would you think would be ISKCON different if all the members of ISKCON would every day read an hour in Srila Prabhupada's books? What would that have an impact on our movement?
Wow. I believe that it would be the Hare Krishna explosion. It would be an explosion. It really would. Yes, I think that sadly, I find that a lot of devotees don't really have a desire to read Prabhupada's books. And I think that from that, you can see that a devotee that is not interested in reading so much, there's a lot of things that start happening. They're not inspired to do devotional service. They can, they won't feel inspiration maybe to come to the morning program, like the Mangalarti, to Guru Puja, to hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam class. I think that if we don't read Prabhupada's books, these kind of important activities of Krishna consciousness kind of, fall to the wayside. They kind of like, people just, there's a seriousness in Krishna consciousness that I think lacks from not reading Prabhupada's books. Mm. And the execution of our daily sadhana suffers from that. It suffers. And I just through the years as a temple president, my experiences have been that if there's a devotee and they're not interested in really reading daily, if they don't have that kind of interest, they actually lose their interest for other activities in the temple, especially like the morning program and chanting their 16 rounds attentively. Because I realize that if you really are focused on a regulated life in Krishna consciousness, you chant your japa, you come to the program, then reading becomes just a necessity. It's created. Reading for me, it created, because you want to make more and more spiritual advancement. You want to actually become more and more pure in your life, and you want to become more and more absorbed in remembering and thinking about Krishna and being able to talk to devotees about Krishna. As a temple president, that's what you do. In management, that's what you do. You have to interact with people. And usually our instruction should be based on what we've learned, in Prabhupada's purports and reading his books. And we try to give that same answer in our own particular way, of course, to the individuals, to the devotees, to a young devotee. So it would be a Hare Krishna explosion for sure.
I like it. Basically, you're saying that this nourishment and this enthusiasm for doing devotional service comes a lot from reading Srila Prabhupada's books. And if we all do that, then naturally so many devotees become very empowered and very enthused to do more. Yeah.
My favorite guy on that is Vaisheshika Prabhu, because he's always propounding the importance of reading Prabhupada's books, and that's what he does. So take a look at his devotional service. I mean, what he's doing. It's incredible, isn't it? Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, it's a beautiful example.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And of course, he's my inspiration also. He revived my enthusiasm for reading Prabhupada's books on a regulated times. And making sure that you make that time. Because you have to, as a manager, anything can happen in your daily course of life. Anything can happen. Somebody can just do some crazy thing, or somebody has lost their desire to be a devotee, and it can come at a most inopportune time. You're just now thinking about doing this, and somebody will knock on your door and say to you, I'm kind of like finished with Krishna consciousness.
You have to deal with the situation then, yeah.
That's a regular routine thing. You never really are, like you might say, it never stops, let's put it that way, because that's just the nature of it. So, we have to be ready at any moment, at any time, to be able to, help people in their spiritual life, in the Krishna consciousness. And if we continue reading, we can actually understand how to approach each particular situation by Srila Prabhupada's instructions.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for sharing all your realizations on this important topic. I really appreciate it a lot. do you have any final message you like to share with all the viewers?
Well, in terms of how, you mean like just my...
In terms of, maybe there is, I didn't ask a question, you wanted to share something with us. Just want to make sure to give you the opportunity to some final words in regards to the importance of Prabhupada's books.
Yeah, I think that the challenge of, I see something in your notes here, it says, how to overcome obstacles in reading Srila Prabhupada's books, such as lack of time, distractions, lack of taste, lack of incentive, inspiration. So I think that that's a very important aspect of our Krishna conscious life. I think it's a very important thing because, lack of time, I think for reading, there should be no lack of time. In other words, in the course of our life, in daily life, in management, I can speak from the management point of view, we should make sure that we actually read regardless of what the situation is. Unless it's extremely important, just an emergency or something of that nature. So I think that in New Dwarka, a lot of devotees know what my schedule is because I'm so regulated in terms of what I do.
For so many years.
Yeah, they're very merciful to me. So they give me that space. They know that early in the morning what I like to do. So I get up early, I chant my japa, and I spend at least a half an hour in the morning just reading Prabhupada's books. And I've been reading Srila Prabhupada's lectures lately. I've kind of gone into Prabhupada's lectures, and there's so many questions that are answered in Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavatam lectures or Chaitanya Charitamrita lectures. So I read those, I'm reading them now. And that half hour is in the morning, and it has to be there, no matter what happens. And the devotees are very kind, and they try not to disturb me at that particular time. So I think that you have to have a very regulated life. You have to be very focused on it and really be, determined to do it. And I think it helps considerably in terms of reading Prabhupada's books regularly. And if you're in management, people will know if you let everybody know what you're doing, when you're doing, they'll be nice to you, they'll be kind to you, they'll give you that opportunity and wait till you're done with that aspect. So, the lack of time, I don't think is an issue, it's there. But we just have to have a regulated program. We have to let our devotees know what you're doing and why you do it, all that kind of thing. And then there won't be this question of unnecessary emergencies. If there is, it's really an emergency. Otherwise, they'll wait for you to finish your particular schedule, your business. So I find doing that is very helpful. So I don't have to be, worried about accomplishing that reading goal that I try to make. I try to make an hour a day, usually like a half hour in the morning when it's very peaceful, and then at the end of the day. And so a lot of times I do more than that. But I just want to make sure that I at least do a half an hour. So I read for an hour a day at least, and then try to do my gazillion email messages and all that other stuff. whatever is necessary.
Right. So it's not a question of time, but a question of making it priority. And thank you so much for being such a wonderful example of a senior devotee who has been so steady for so many years, and then also showing by his own example what it means to read Prabhupada's books and live according to. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna.